Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's stories are true subscriber stories sent in from my dear friends and subscribers James and Victoria. Both had some amazingly scary and interesting encounters with Bigfoot. I think you guys are going to really enjoy these stories. Of course, please do let me know down below in the comments what you thought. Please do like and share. If you're new to DMT, please hit that subscribe button and the notification button to stay up to date with all the content we bring out. And your support is more than welcome. Without further ado, let's get into tonight's first story, sent in by my friend James. I would like to entitle A Dark Figure Walking Towards Me. Let's get straight into that. Hi DMT, it's James. I'll just get straight ahead and get straight into it. In 1993, I married my first wife and we moved to the little mountain town of Richwood, WV, not far from her hometown. After spring broke in late March, I was outside one night enjoying the crisp air when I heard the sound of hounds opening up on a track. Now, this was a common sound for this area, that after the hard winter, that fellows would hunt their dogs just for exercise, but not take any game. After about 20 minutes or something screamed like nothing I had ever heard before. I'm pretty familiar with the sounds that most native mammals of North America make, and this was not one. On top of that, the dogs and everything else went deathly quiet. When I asked around town the next day about the sound, I got the feeling no one wanted to talk about it. So, I chalked it up as just one of those strange things that I heard happen in the mountains. The rest of the spring and summer were uneventful, but that fall, I would have my first physical experience with Sasquatch. I was deer hunting with my now former father-in-law on their family property on the western side of Greenbrier County. I was deer hunting with my now former father-in-law on their family property on the western side of Greenbrier County. This, in turn, was surrounded by several thousand acres of thick forest. After setting up my blind well before daylight, I waited for the sun to rise. After a couple of hours of light, I began to notice movement out the corner of my left eye. But when I turned to look, nothing. This went on for well over an hour, in which time I went from thinking, yeah, my mind's playing tricks on me, to being spooked. Then it happened. As I turned again to look, I saw what I can only describe as an apish or monkey-like face looking at me. Needless to say, I nearly soiled myself in fear and totally froze. I don't know how long I sat there trying to figure out what to do next, but after a while more, I finally worked up the courage to pack up my gear and leave the area. I moved back closer to the farm and hunted the rest of the day, but never talked about what I saw, because I wasn't completely sure myself. The rest of the year and the next were uneventful. I spent a large amount of time in the woodlands around the state and never had anything else happen to me. I had even got my own coonhounds and often hunted alone and camped at night. Just me and the dogs. Well, that changed in 1994 when I went to stay and hunt with my best friend at his family cabin in Hampshire County. It was opening day of deer season and I was in my blind on top of a rock outcropping overlooking a creek bottom. Around 10 AM or so, I saw a dark figure walking towards me, several hundred feet off. At first, I thought it was a man. Then I thought, what fool would be out walking in the woods on the opening day of deer season with no blaze orange on to identify himself? On top of that, I could also determine that he was not carrying a firearm and looked to be very, very large. I glanced away for a second to grab my binoculars and it was gone. I mean, like vanished in thin air. I later asked my friend if anyone else was hunting on that part of the property, and he said he had not seen anyone come in And then when we asked the other hunters who also hunted there, none of them did either. Once again, I summed it up to weird shit that happens in the forest. This is my last and, to me, the most terrifying encounter. My ex-wife and I purchased a home far away from any town. A little 3-bedroom on 2+ acres in the middle of nowhere. I was in love. I had plenty of room for my hounds and for guests, and got to work building kennels and making other improvements. After a few months, I was finished and grown my hound pack to about 8+. 2 little house dogs also. In late summer, my now ex-wife and her mother went on a trip, and I stayed at home to enjoy some peace and quiet, just me and the dogs. When I guess was the 3rd or possibly 4th night alone, with nothing out of the ordinary on the previous nights, the hounds began to raise hell at about 10 p.m. Next, the little dog started, and suddenly, this stink permeated the house. Next, the hounds went absolute silent, and I thought at first a blasted skunk had wandered into the yard. So I grabbed a flashlight and went out the back door to check on the hounds. When I opened the door, the smell was much nearly overwhelming. It was more like a dead, wet dog sprayed by a skunk that had rolled in a pile of pig dung. I nearly vomited. I shined a light around and saw nothing. I called to the hounds, but none would come out of their boxes. I want to add that these dogs were not afraid of anything, but whatever was out there must have been terrible, because they always came when I called. Then it hit me. That feeling that I was in danger. You know when the hair on the back of your neck stands up and it's time to fight or run? Well, I went back inside of the house with the dogs just trembling in fear. I locked the doors and grabbed my 12-gauge shotgun. I pulled all the blinds down and went into the master bedroom and loaded the gun with 3-inch number 4 shot, as it was the heaviest loads I had at the time. I gathered the little dogs and locked the bedroom door, sat on the floor in the corner with the bed between me and the window, and waited. Dead silence. No bugs, no night sounds, just the sound of the air conditioning turning on and off. I sat there with my little friends until I fell asleep from exhaustion. The next morning, everything was normal. Even the smell was gone. Let's get this straight. Skunk smell doesn't disappear overnight. This changed how I looked at things. I no longer got into the woods alone at night, and I've learned to be more aware of my surroundings at all times. I was never sure what I'd experienced until years later, when more info on these creatures became available. I still hunt and fish, but no longer live in the mountains. I go visit often, but never ever alone, and only go out at night with several people. I'm actually scared of the dark somewhat. I hope this is okay, and I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. Regards, James. "2 feet from the tailgate." Let's get straight into that. Hi DMT, it's Victoria. Well, I guess I'll just get straight into it. This happened about 11 years ago now. My husband and I were only married for about a year. We had just bought a new truck and had decided to take it out on the back roads to get a feel for how it handled. This was at dusk and we had gotten some beer and it had turned out into cruising at the time. At the time we lived at a lake house and it was located very close to the Michigan-Indiana state line. We were driving around 20, maybe 25 miles per hour, and we were playing some music on the radio and we realised that we needed to relieve ourselves. So, it was very dark by this time. I was driving and I was pulling off to the side of the road. We were at a clump of woods that ran the whole length of the dirt road that we found ourselves on. So, I pulled over by this tree, and my husband and I both got out and walked back to the tailgate. I should mention that we both left our doors open for the light and the music. The music was kind of loud, but it was a good song. Kashmir, if my memory serves me right. I kept feeling like something was watching me, but thought it was just my imagination. Then I felt pebbles hitting the backs of my legs. Not hard though. My husband finished relieving himself first and was getting back inside the truck. He did, and I remember feeling very targeted, like I had a sign on me that said, "Free, dumbass, come and get her." So I hurried and got back into the truck. I put my foot on the brake to put the truck in gear. What lit up was something I couldn't identify at first. I was staring at something that is huge and hairy in my rear view mirror. I turned my head to use the bigger mirror on the outside of the truck, but couldn't tell what it was. What happened next was the most frightening experience I've ever experienced. I turned my body around so I could look out the rear window, and that is when I started to figure it out. You see, it was a Bigfoot, and he was pissed off, and he was about 1 to 2 feet from the tailgate of our truck. The music is still up pretty loud, so I couldn't give an accurate description of any sound that he made, but it was like a low growl and a men's scream at the same time. He had his arms raised above his head and was screaming at us. I turned around and floored it. I spewed rocks and gravel in Bigfoot's face, I think, and I looked in my rearview window to see if it was following us, but it was gone. I thought, where did it go? I couldn't ask my husband because he was pretty drunk. I hold my liquor better than he does, so I let off the gas a little. That is when I heard it. I had turned down the radio as we were taking off so I could hear what was going on. I looked over to the woods, and it was running through the edge of the wood line, keeping pace with us. The trees were literally shaking, and some came on over. I remember it was like a full moon that night, so I could see very, very well. I could see the edge of the woods coming to an end, so I thought I'd better speed up. So I sped up and was starting to pull away from the Bigfoot. As I reached the edge of the woods, I saw him. He was huge. He had like a smoky blonde colour to him, cone-shaped head, and the hair, it was sparse on his chest and stomach. But I know now that this was a bluff charge. But back then, I thought he was going to kill us. I know the exact location where this happened, and we went back to that same location the next day and found a tree that was 4 inches in diameter, uprooted and thrown like a javelin and laying partially in the road. This is my story, and I hope someone can explain the colour to me, but it baffles me why he was so light in colour. I do need to add that when I saw him, I mean really saw him, I about flipped out. I looked at Larry and asked him if he saw that, but he was pretty drunk by then, so that was a no. I just remember driving really fast, and then down the road at about 5 miles or so was a stop sign, and we had to stop. It wasn't for long, and I'd almost forgotten that part. Do you think I should remain on the low? Regards, Victoria. Wow, thank you so much, Victoria, for sending that in. I do really enjoy a Bigfoot story. That's one hell of a story there. What an experience. Please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments, guys. Of course, please do like and share. And remember, if you're testing out your new truck on the back roads of the woods, be aware of what's in the tree line watching you. And above all, be safe, not sorry.